Good morning, Boone. We will be having a 0 golf balls kind of day here in the high country, so expect falling temperatures and
Boone is, that hidden gem in Western North Carolina that's so sought after already. And if the area can't get you here, then the beer definitely will keep you here.
When I think about a company, for it to succeed, you think about people. All a company is people. Different people from all walks of life, sizes, shapes, religions, thought processes, philosophies. For a company to succeed, there has to be something that's very strong, that pulls people in a direction, that's a common, focused goal or goals, if you will. All of us here at AMB focus on the 3 core principles of what we are as a business, which is community, sustainability, and philanthropy.
Back in 2011, I was at Appalachian State University, and I was in the environmental science program. I was bartending at Mellow Mushroom, and I was working in the school brewery, Ivory Tower, as like the resident school brewer at the time.
Nathan was a bartender back there and would always tell us about the different beers. It was great because he was very knowledgeable about the beer.
We started having different conversations and learning more about each other, and eventually, she introduced me to her husband, Sean. We saw that, community, philanthropy, and sustainability were the core values that we shared, and we decided to be the change we wanted to see in the world and use beer as the mechanism to make that change.
Nathan Kelishek had moved in to the house with us because he had, at the time, he had nowhere to live, and he was still taking his classes and looking to graduate.
When the conversation started rolling, we had to figure out a name. We landed on Appalachian Mountain Brewery because it's the shortest name out there. No, it's just because that's where we called home.
So Nathan calls me up when I'm in Spain, and he's still living in Sean's little camper trailer outside his house, and says, "Hey Chris, do you want to start a brewery in Boone?" And I said yes, and we got cracking. When we were first getting started, we were working in the garage of Sean's house.
The garage was fun. It was totally cool experience. Having all the people come over to our house, we had the garage open, and getting to try the different beers.
What we're doing is a craft, and there's an art to it. And we hope to bring that art to the high country so that everybody else can learn about it, partake in it, hopefully be part of what the Appalachian Mountain Brewery is going to be about. It's not just about just trying to knock it out, it's about creating something that's going to be high quality.
Looking back on it, it was such a special time because we got to form this bond, which is like what we've created with our community here in the high country.
Oh, there you go.
All right, you see this? This is what we do to bring you some local beer. We drill under feet of concrete and get sewage all over ourselves.
Nathan and I are cousins, and I see Sean as part of my family now too, because the way that we have grown together, the way that we've put in every single ounce of energy that we can muster into this project for so long, that just brings us really close together, and it's a very tight-knit group.
While I was in school, Sean really took the helm and had to do groundbreaking legislation change. That really opened up the door for us to do what we love to do.
Being the first brewery in Boone, we faced a lot of challenges. One of those was that Boone was a dry county for a very long time. So bringing beer into this town was something that was kind of controversial in some ways.
As soon as we closed on the property, we started basically ripping the entire place apart.
So we did most of the construction on the brewery ourselves.
Very committed to bringing you beer. Very committed. So committed that we're willing to dig to the end of the earth. For black gold!
It was a welding shop. There was nothing there. The weeds were 6 feet tall.
I like to say my best analogy for those times was I was like one of the broomsticks in Fantasia, carrying buckets of water, except for it was buckets of concrete and broken rock.
Give me your hand. Give me your hand. I'll leave your hand. Don't pull on the pipes, man. I'm serious. Okay, give me the other hand. Ready? Up. Let me get a picture of you.
Being outside of downtown gave us a lot more space, a lot more accessibility to the brewery, and we really made this place a destination to come to in Boone. We turned it from something that was an abandoned building into a very vibrant, beautiful spot for the community to come to.
When we first opened, I remember the day so clear. Sean and I were bartending, but all I would always think about is, I want a place to be able to bring my kids.
People aren't coming in here to go wild. They're coming in here to sit down, have a pint, and talk with their friends. And that generated a lot of support, especially with families.
I remember watching Steven do magic tricks and Samantha sing at open mic. And it's because of what A&B is and the type of environment that is here that we know without a doubt that it's a place for our children to grow up in.
So one of the core things of Appalachian Mountain Brewery from the very beginning was a focus on sustainability and really trying to be a leader in the community and what that means.
First, the building that's refurbished, an old welding shop, to the refurbished pallet wood that makes up the wall coverings, to the spent grain that's given to farmers so that they can offset their grain cost, to the solar panels on the roof. There's a lot of areas of our business. We try to cut water consumption, which is hard in the brewing process, but it forces us to be more efficient, and also our energy cost, whether it's gas or electricity that we're spending as well.
The bar's got lights.
That's right. And it probably uses less power than most people have, and 2 lights in their home. Not even 200 watts. Here.
So we started as just a brew pub, but then we continually added kind of our satellite things. We're never too busy to not have a side project. And the first side project for us was to figure out how to get food into the brewery.
When we're developing the food truck concept, you know, there's a lot of back and forth on like what we were going to do, what we were going to name it. Is it going to be just a brewery? You know, like even just naming the food truck was an interesting process. We knew from the beginning we wanted it to be about an awesome experience, but at the same time we also wanted to be able to tie it into the mission of like A&B, community, sustainability, and philanthropy. For me, you know, I grew up in a little small farm town down in Lenore, North Carolina, and the farming culture was really important to me. The food culture was really important to me. So I wanted to find a way to take the food truck concept and kind of branch off what we're already doing at A&B. But instead of focusing on like a nonprofit, for instance, I felt like it's important to also focus on this awesome local food network that we have here.
We work with a different farm every month. We use ingredients from that farm, and proceeds from the truck go back to that farm to continue that cycle where money that's invested in Boone stays in Boone.
Another core value of Appalachian Mountain Brew from the beginning was a focus on community. Boone, it's a very transitional town. Community that is here in Boone, though, is a very vibrant community. All kinds of different people in different walks of life.
That sense of community really drives us in many ways. That's part of our core mission, is to leave more on the table than what we take off.
We needed to bring in and hold events here, and we needed to make sure that we were able to raise money for those that need it.
When we're doing events, it's not just as a matter of selling beer or having a good time, it's also an educational component that I feel is very important. There's so many groups up here that are doing excellent work in whatever field they're in, and people don't know about it. So having this great venue is a way to spread awareness to all those people that might not know how hard people are working to protect Boone and the town they love up here in the mountains.
We did the bottle release, as you see it's in the cooler, and we're selling those bottles for $8 a bottle, and 100% of the proceeds go to the Blue Ridge Conservancy to continue to protect the lands here in the high country.
I mean, the change that I see is just the amount of community involvement and how much more active the area is from what it used to be.
We're having events like a ski competition, we're having events like a float fest, and everything from like a rock climbing competition in the back of the brewery. All these things are still in that main original focus of like helping someone, but now we're finding ways to help people in a much bigger scale.
In less than 3 years, we started out producing about 400 barrels a year, and now we're producing over 3,000.
So we're growing at an exponential rate right now. It's really mind-boggling how much beer we're producing. But despite that, we always want to make sure that quality is at its peak. Starting to can was one of the really great and frustrating moments. The canner is a little tiny canner made for small craft breweries, but it also means that there's a lot of things that can go wrong. But seeing those first cans go down the line, it was just a magical experience.
My job as creative director at AMB is to match that liquid on the inside with the visuals. Whether that's the murals above the bar, throughout the brewery, down to the merch, the t-shirts, the hats, all of those things, they speak to what we do.
The artwork is a huge representation of the mission that we want to communicate to people.
The rivers, the outdoor sports, the colors, the great Appalachia rolling landscapes, and I started to piece these things together in my mind to figure out how can I create a motif that will wrap around these cans that will represent these mountains.
We added another side project, which was cider. Cider is something that I really enjoy. It's a very different animal than brewing beer.
We started out with the base recipes, and then as soon as we got that down packed, we decided to start experimenting and using all sorts of ingredients, from plums and cinnamon to chai tea, mint, tarragon, cardamom, and then we brewed one with green tea, rhubarb, and strawberries, which takes me back to the southern rhubarb strawberry pie that my mom always makes.
Working with Craft Brew Alliance has really been a pleasure, and it's also afforded us a lot of opportunities. And for me, that's kind of a dream come true.
Having a corporation like that, partnering up with Appalachian Mountain Brewery is great and has been a rewarding experience.
So we became a publicly traded company a few years ago, and that's really been an interesting thing. It's let us grow a lot, to gain access to capital, to build out the cidery, to continue that production, to fuel the growth here. And it also has allowed people to become part of the family.
So we can't bring this directly back home with us, but man, wouldn't that be beautiful? Cheers.